All right, everybody, I want to get going on this. My goal for this is to have you in and out of here in like 30 minutes. Okay. So we are not going to solve all the world problems, right, in 30 minutes, but this information that I put together today, I know some of you that are on, and there was over 100 people that registered for this, but who knows, right, how many actually show up in person. Because I know now, right, fall sports are wrapping up all their individual meetings, and so there's never a good time to do these meetings, but I'm gonna put this recording out to everybody. Let me do this. Actually, I'm just gonna put myself here. So what I want to do with this is, a lot of times for you, right, I get to talk to thousands of coaches every single year, and a lot of it, usually this is kind of the underlying question that always I get asked this all the time: how do I do better? How do I get to that next level of success? Today, like I said, we're not going to solve like all the things. I just want to give you a couple ideas, or there's four components that I want to talk you through, because what I know, you all as the leader set the pace, and the speed that you are able to go and the ceiling that you have will be the ceiling, right? And the speed that the team moves. And so I want, in order to get the most out of your team, the most out of your staff, chances are, because you're on this webinar, you're looking to tweak and change a few things here or there, right? And just do things a little bit differently than you did last year. And I love this group when you show up for that, because I know this is a group that wants to grow and improve and is always looking for new ideas, even though you're already having a lot of success. Love that about this group. So on this webinar, first, know that I'm coming from a place where, longtime college soccer coach myself, 23 years in the profession. I have been doing busy coach, since like 2011, I want to say. And I've known Dan Tudor. I'm his vice president right now, so I manage a lot of his clients. I do a lot of the workshops all over the country, and get to talk to a lot of coaches all day, every day, about recruiting and strategies and moving the needle and moving things along. I've known Dan since 2007, right? So I've been doing this a long time. I come at this information that I'm sharing with you knowing that I am trying to reduce your stress while get you consistently performing at much higher levels by just getting, pardon my French, but getting your shit together, right? Your daily actions. But then also there's a lot of moving pieces, and most coaches are winging it. And I want to get your daily operations running smoothly without having to spend hundreds of hours of trying to figure it out. So I'm going to share, and that's what I try to do, right, with these webinars and the newsletters that I send out, trying to share that information, things that I've learned, so you can reduce the amount of time it takes you to figure it out. But then also, ultimately, I want you to win, not just what you're doing with your career, with your team, and the impact you're trying to make, but also at home, right? To get home to the people who need you to be there for them, right? So that's coming from me. This is where I'm coming from, trying to present this information to you as coaches, right? I know that everybody wants to win, and winning might be GPA, great GPA. It might be graduation rate. It might be wins and losses. It might be, impacting student athletes, whatever win means for you. But the thing I realized the hard way, and what I learned the hard way, was that most days, right, I got into coaching to coach. I didn't get in for the office work and all the stuff, right, in the office. I get to ask a lot of coaches, and I'd love for those of you that are on, put in the chat, please, what percentage currently of your day is spent on administrative recruiting, work, versus actually coaching your team, right? Put in the chat, if you don't mind, some of that info. I'd love to see it. Just to keep moving this along, all the workshops that I get to do on campuses, and a lot of times just through client check-in work that I'm doing, I ask them, what is currently your percentage of time? And I want to say over this last year and a half that I've been collecting this data, this is the number. About 79% of a typical coach's day is administrative recruiting work, and only 20-ish% is on the yep, 70, 30, yep, 20% coaching, yep, 100%, right? So, and then I ask, ideally, what percentage of your time is spent on all the things? And, obviously there's a flip, 50 to 60% coaching, 40-ish to 50% administrative recruiting. Now, I can't change how much work you have to do administratively. But what I know, and why I'm starting this webinar this way, is I know that most coaches, the amount of time spent doing administrative stuff is because of these things, right? Is we are guilty of, and I don't know how many of these you're guilty of, but I still to this day, right? There, we're human, we all struggle with these things, but I know each of these can be a killer to the goals and building your career or reaching that next step. Okay. But I also know that too many coaches, and again, I know this from speaking from experience and making all these mistakes myself, but all of the coaches that I get to talk to all the time are just winging it. We're just showing up and hoping good things happen, right? You would never plan your practices or just random. I mean, every now and then, right? It might be a random thing, but you don't wing your team, right? It's not winging it for the most part. I want you to kind of take some of the same ideas and strategies for how you manage and plan a season, just to what you're doing in the office and in managing your staff, and with some of these other components I'm going to bring up to you, because I know when those things happen, that's when next level of success can happen. I've never, ever, ever, in all the top programs that I've had a chance to work with or read about and studied, have I ever found a top elite coach or just successful in what they're doing, whatever level they're at. I've never seen a powerhouse program built on randomness. Never, right? So we can't just wing it and expect different results. So what I want you to do is, just all of you guys that are on this webinar right now and are going to be listening to, because I want to say there was at least 100, 150 maybe that registered for this webinar. So if you're listening to this later, write this down. Where are we at currently right now? So on a scale of 1 to 10, think back through all of 2023 so far up till December. How'd we do, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how close were you to accomplishing the goals that you probably set out at about this time last year, right? 1, hot mess, 10, crushed it. Now, I would say most coaches, and especially those coaches that tend to follow my stuff, you're probably at like a 6 or 7, right? Is you're doing pretty well for the most part, but always can do things a little bit better. But just again, self-reflection, let's figure out baseline, where are we starting? Then I want to ask you and have you write this down. What is next level for you? And again, next level breakthrough could be a season where you actually win a lot more. Could be wins. And again, wins could be GPA, could be graduation, it could be quality of recruits, number of recruits, right? Whatever that win is for you, what is that? It could be a bigger role at the school that you're at. Maybe I know there's a few coaches that I work with that are looking to add an athletic director title. Some assistants want to be head coaches, right? Some head coaches want to go on and get, a different role at a different school. Some just want better work-life balance. That's next level, right? Reduce the stress and the overwhelm of all the things that come with being a coach. Might be a different school, might be a different division, might be a different conference, right? Whatever it is for you, write that down. Next level. Again, we got to figure out where we're starting before we can build and put out a plan for where we're going to go, And then the next thing I want you to do real quick, as we start, or as we're kind of evaluating where we're at right now, I want you to be clear about what you want, right? Is kind of the last thing we did, but I also want you to be clear on what you don't want. A lot of coaches don't deeply consider what they don't want. We rush towards some goal, and once we hit it, only find ourselves stressed out, overwhelmed, exhausted, and unmotivated because, right, we're burnt out. I don't want you to do that, right? I don't want you to work harder and get get the win, but at the cost of your passions, your health, and your relationship. So get the win and the glory, right? But I want you to do it in a way that sets you up, or like, I want you to have the life that you want to have, So I want you to write out, yes, I want this, but I don't want that. So yes, I want the wins, we'll just say, but I don't want to be in the office working 24/7 and not be able to get home for dinner or whatever it is. What are some of those things? And I'd love if you don't mind sharing, what are some of your numbers? And if you don't mind sharing, as I'm always trying to put together better content for you guys, would love to hear some of your feedback on some of these things. And always, if you want to set up a call with me afterwards and talk through some of these things, for sure, let me know. But once you have a baseline, and obviously, right, we're just going through this quick, but where were you at from last year? What is next level for you this next year, right? And then yes, I want this, but not at the cost of my health, my relationships, or whatever it is for you, right? Now what are we adding, right? Because you can't do the same thing you did last year and expect to get different. So what is that? What I know is that just setting goals is not enough. And you know this too, right? Because everybody sets goals and everybody sets the same goals. Every Olympian wants to win the gold. Doesn't mean they're going to win it, right? Every college team wants to win the NCAA tournament, right? Or whatever. Not everybody's going to do it. NFL wants to win the Super Bowl, right? Everybody wants to win, but successful, unsuccessful people have the same goals, but goals aren't what separate who actually is successful and who is not, right? And so what I want to share really you could keep just doing things the way you're doing it, absolutely. But what I'm wanting to share, and if you are up for applying it, it really, I'm telling you, can save you years of struggle, right? And achieve what you're looking to achieve much faster than you've ever achieved it before. So these are the 4 things that I want you to think about. And as I'm going through these things, because after I talk through each component, I want you to evaluate, how am I doing in this area? Okay. So first one, and right, with Busy Coach, I'm talking about this all the time. What is your coach operating system? Meaning, how do you show up every single day and get done what you need to get done? I am a big believer, and those of you that, have been on webinars with me before, how often do I throw up this, formula? But right, as coaches, there's results tied to almost everything that we do. And with each result, there is a process. Your processes for how you show up every single day and operate, it's a system, and that system is getting you the exact result, right? Or it's set up perfectly for the results you're getting. If you don't like how things are going, meaning you just finished maybe your season. I know some of you are fall sports. You're exhausted, right? You're stressed out. You're overwhelmed, right? You're pulled in a million different directions. You're a little burnt, maybe, right? You're a little crispy. We got to change some of the steps in the process leading up to, right? I can't take away all of it, right? Because you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds. And there's a lot of stress that comes with that. 100%. I get that. And you're dealing with athletic directors and all the things. But for the most part, you and what you can control, the way that you show up and operate every day is what I want to talk about. So just for each component, I'm just going to give you one thing, but think, this upcoming year, can you change your mindset from short-term to long-term thinking? It is easier, and I find most coaches work this way. It is easier and faster for you to just do all this stuff. right? But I find it is also what is keeping you stuck. It is easier for you to make the decisions versus spending the time training somebody else. If you have assistants, even grad assistants, right? I know that they're in and out in 2 years, so it's just easier sometimes for you to just do it yourself. I get that. But I want you to, by training somebody to make some of these decisions for you, that's long-term thinking. Yes, it is upfront work, but long-term, it will free up your time on the back end and allow you want to adjust your administrative to coaching, short-term versus long-term thinking, right? What are the standard operating procedures that you could maybe document? It is short-term, it's easier for you to do it yourself. Long-term, document the process and the decision to somebody else, right? Figure out, pass that on to somebody else. It is work for you to do it at front, but you are setting the standard for how the thing gets done, and then you're passing it off to somebody else. But long term, even if a grad assistant, they come and go every 2 years, it's already documented and the process is perfected. Now, the time it takes to train is lower, all the stuff, right? But short term versus long term thinking, right? Second is energy. I find a lot of coaches are more do what I say, not what I do. You understand that for your athletes to perform at high levels on game day, they can't train 24/7. They need to sprint and recover, rest and recover, eat, right? Sprint, recover, rest, right? All the things. Are you finding yourself working 24/7 or working long, long days without working out, without eating? I know I'm, beating a dead horse speaking to coaches about these things, but I'm just trying to get you to really evaluate, how am I doing in this area, right? With energy. Elimination. Have you ever figured out how much time you are wasting doing tasks that you shouldn't be doing? Have you ever figured that out? Right? The thing I love about Olympic athletes, right? They're all elite, but the thing that separates the one that gets the gold versus who doesn't even, right? The difference between who wins and who doesn't get a medal are seconds, right? Depending on the sport. And usually what separates them is not all the things that they did to get themselves there. It's what they chose to not do, right? They're choosing to not get distracted every 5 seconds. They're choosing to not multitask. They're choosing what they're allowing in their brain, all the things. What makes sense for you to eliminate, right? Because a lot of times your schedules are so jam-packed, there's no way to add more to what you're already doing. You got to take some things away, but elimination, be thinking, right? What of that could I do? Habits and routines. Everybody on this planet has 24/7, right? Or, 365 days. But yet some are more successful than others. And a lot of times, even though we all have the same time, those that are more successful just have simple habits and routines in place to better leverage their time. Some of these habits and routines, I want you to be thinking about right now. How well do you do these things? The easiest ones for coaches, right, are ones that you're already doing. You're waking up, hopefully every morning. Well, what happens? Do you have a routine to set you up to win the day, or are you getting pulled in a million different directions? Do you have a routine of what you should be doing right when you first get in the office? Every day that you go to work, your butt hits the seat and you choose what you're doing, right? Are you setting yourself up to win by being disciplined on a certain few key things that get you off of the ground and running in a positive direction? Or are we random and winging it? Most coaches start their day by opening up their inbox, right? And then they go down the wormhole and they never, ever get on track or feel like they're accomplishing anything. It's tough to get next level and really move the needle on all the things if everything's random. So morning routine, workday startup routine. How about a workday wind down routine? And then end of the day routine, right? Where you're winding down, shutting off the screens, putting yourself in a position, depending on the person, to get the best sleep, right? You're hydrated, you go to bed with a plan, you wake up with a purpose, and off you do and you crush the next day, right? But just be thinking, how well are my habits and routines right now? Are they setting me up to be successful? I'm always talking about this book, right? The Compound Effect, Darren Hardy, choices, behavior, habits, consistency. Those that are successful do all of those things and have these things in place long term, right? It's a magical process. It's how what he talks about all the time is small disciplines practiced every single day compound into massive results, right? And the reality is you're always, this is always working, whether you know it or not, in either direction. So just again, self-evaluate. How am I doing in these areas? Planning. You would never go into practice for the most part without a plan and just wing it, right? I want you to simple, right? It can't be too complex because it won't work, right? It's got to be simple. Start with, all that stuff we just did at the beginning. What is the vision? What is the goal, right? Or what is next level for you? And then think, brain dump. What are all the things that could get done that will move the needle and take you steps closer to that thing? What are all the things you got to do? Brain dump, right? What's number one? What is the top thing that if you do this, this is a program building thing, right? What's number one? What's number two? Brain dump, make a list, 1 to 6 in priority order, right? It's so simple, right? It doesn't have to be complex, but because you've decided the day before, don't get into the office and then try to figure out what to do. By then it's too late. Day before, plan 1 to 6. What am I getting done today? And then the next level of planning is, when is my energy the best and my focus the best? And when am I getting interrupted the least? If you can plan and prioritize and match it, align it with when your energy and focus are the best, you will try it for 2 weeks, right? And I'm not saying all day, every day, you've got every minute planned. Nope. This is like an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, maybe tops section of time when you will actually get more done in this short amount of time than most coaches get done all week. Try it for 2 weeks. And if you don't find that you're further along in all of the things that you're doing than you've ever been, let me know, right? It works, but this is something not a lot of people do. And this is how you can get ahead much faster than everybody else. It's just being a little bit more intentional about how you're planning and showing up. Then you got to execute, right? What environment do you need to be in to get a lot of work done? To be honest with you, I love sitting on my couch and I have HD TV on in the background. I love watching football on the weekends, and I've got my computer and I'm just cranking away for like an hour or two. First half, I'm getting this thing done. Second half, I'm getting this thing done. Shut it down. Off I go. Could be in your office, could be maybe going to a different place. What drink do you have? Do you need to have music on, right? Be more intentional about, you got to get the work done, right? And you can't just be random about it. What are the things you need to set yourself up to be successful on some of those things, right? Got to execute. Review. Do you ever watch your game film, right? Why do you watch game film? Because the game film to me never lies. It tells us we're executing on the plan. We're doing the right things at the right time. I want you to go back every night, if you can, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, review your day. How did I do today? What were my priorities? What did I work on? What did I spend too much time on? What should I start doing, stop doing? All the things. Just a quick review, but it's you watching your game film. And you want to get ahead further and get a breakthrough for this next year. I mean, all of these things individually can make a big difference, but done together, right? That's where the magic can happen. And this is where even 30, 60, 90 days from now, if you do these things consistently, you will be further ahead than you've ever been in your life. Okay. That is the power of some of these things. And then rest and recover. What happens when you go on vacation, right? You work like crazy leading up to that vacation because you don't want to do any work, right? On vacation. When you're there, you shut down the phones, you shut down the computer, hopefully, for the most part, right? And you rest. No screen time, you're recovering, right? And then when you come back, how much more energized and productive are you for a few days at least? I want you to think about doing this for yourself every single night. Again, you don't expect your athletes to be on 24/7. Don't expect the same of yourself. You actually will come back every single day a stronger and better version of yourself if you give yourself an hour, 2 hours. Doesn't have to be all night, every night, but a couple hours of rest and recovery and doing the things you love doing. Okay. This done consistently over a long stretch of time is how I've helped coaches get to that next level, okay, of their recruiting and their coaching career and managing their team, right? Extending their career, doing all the stuff. How well are you doing, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say this coach operating system, showing up, bringing your A game, right? And it's just, these things are not hard to do, but if you're just showing up and hoping they happen, right? It's not going to happen. We got to get into a rhythm and a routine of it. It is an operating system. Okay. How well are you doing on it? Just write down your number. And again, if you don't mind sharing in chat, love to hear where you guys are at with it. Second component though is an efficient staff. Are you trying to do everything on your own, or do you have a way to multiply your results by creating a staff that's working on the right things at the right time in the most, right, in the smoothest, most efficient way? I would say, from what I hear, the two top frustrations from support staff, not just assistant coaches, the trainers, the equipment person, the strength and conditioning coach, the nutritionist, or whoever you got, right? Lack of communication and constant switching of directions. Yes, it's great if you got a lot of ideas, but if you're constantly switching directions, it can cause a lot of friction, and it's going to prevent your team from bringing their best. I have found you can take your leadership from there to there just by getting your staff aligned through effective cadence of communication. So here's a couple of ideas for you, and this I think is from good to great. Daily. What are their priorities? So just every morning, and ideally you're doing this standing up. Don't sit down and get comfy, right? What are your priorities? So every person, they know this is the meeting we're having. This meeting isn't for chit-chatting and catching up on things. This is what's your priority? This is going to let you see what your staff is focused on and allow you to course correct if they're getting off track by shiny objects, right? Each person needs to bring key performance indicators. Okay. This is, based on your goals and things that you're working on, but these are numbers to hold you accountable for improving, right? And knowing where we need to make adjustments. And then third, what obstacles are preventing them from making progress, right? And I would say this is almost the most important part of these meetings. But we got to keep this short. And the goal is to be able to get focused immediately on what really matters to the program, and to be able to remove obstacles as quickly as possible and only focus on things that move the needle, right? I would say most meetings, people sit down and we chit chat and we just casually, which is okay. But again, like, there's a time and a place for those things. To me, when you're in the office, let's get to work and let's proactively discuss and address obstacles. Let's set accountability numbers that we're working towards, because there are things to get done. And right, as coaches, we get paid and we rise in the profession based on the value we provide. We're not providing value when everything is just random and we're just showing up and hoping good things get done. You know what I'm saying? A daily huddle and then get to work, right? At the end of the day, have a stand-up meeting. And in this meeting, what were the wins? I don't want to hear what you accomplished. Don't give me your to-do list. What moved the needle? What were the numbers that we hit, right? What was accomplished that day? Just progress update on some of the things. Now, concerns. This is something that is really helpful because we want to identify areas where any support staff that we have might need more support on things or more information. Because you asked them to do certain things and they had a bunch of questions or concerns about something. We didn't give them enough information, but wins, concerns, and then focus for tomorrow. Get them thinking through priorities, right? But just these two, beginning of the day huddle and then end of the day kind of wrap up, you get the communication going. You're always sharing the vision. You're always talking priorities, always then evaluating, did we accomplish what we set out to accomplish that day? Coaches are great at doing this with practice, right? We establish what we're doing for the practice and the priorities, and we wrap it up at the end, right? I'm just asking you to do the same thing for how you do things in the office. You want to reduce the amount of time you're doing administrative stuff and spend more time coaching. These two meetings will help tremendously, because what you'll find, remember a thing I talked about is, do you understand how much time you're wasting doing stupid things in the office that aren't moving the needle on building the program that you want? You have these two meetings, those unnecessary things will just die off and they'll go away, and you won't even realize, oh my gosh, we haven't been doing that for the longest time, and it's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? But just communication, little communication, beginning of the day, end of the day with your staff. These key things can make all the difference in the world. So scale of 1 to 10. How well are you doing with this sort of communication, right? Wins, concerns, obstacles, priorities. Where are you at? So third component is accountability. Taking ownership, right? Holding yourself and everybody on your staff to a standard. It's not only what you do, but it also can be what you don't do. Now, I would say, unfortunately, most people view accountability as something that belittles or happens only when, there's failure in some, whatever, some form or another, because, right, when things are going well, nobody says who's accountable for the success, right? You don't hear that. But if you want things to change, if you want to influence performance, drive action and behavior, accountability is crucial. And this, right, it leads to higher performance, commitment to work, and greater motivation. This is how I want you to do it. I talked about this on a Recruiting Made Simple webinar just recently, but this is a mistake coaches are making. We set goals versus setting targets. A goal is something you can see. A target is something you can hit, right? Goals are accountable to a deadline. Targets are accountable to a result. Targets create friction, right? Now, I certainly don't want you walking around stressed out all the time, but I think the hallmark of really great performers is they want to be held accountable to something, right? And so to give you an example, I already talked about this with the staff and setting the priorities and bringing the KPI to the meeting. A goal that you might be setting is using Instagram for recruiting. The target is setting a number that we're trying to hit. Okay, so yes, we're using Instagram to influence our recruiting, but we got to use it to create 10 new recruiting prospects a month. But setting that target, now what you can do is evaluate the steps. What are the steps that I took to create 10 new recruiting prospects a month? And either, right, now this becomes objective. You either did it or you didn't do it. And if you did it, great, rinse and repeat. If you did not accomplish the task, now you can start changing something in the process, and you keep changing and adjusting and tweaking until you get to that result you're after. Remember, right? The system you have set up is working perfectly for the results you're getting. How else are you going to know where to make adjustments unless you start establishing targets to hold you as the head coach or whatever your role is on your staff or your staff accountable, right? How do you hold them accountable if we don't know what the numbers are we're trying to hit? You know what I'm saying? So try it. So, and again, just going through these quick, there's a million of these things you could set up. Obviously, there's accountability groups. You can set up an accountability partner. There are apps you can use to, hold yourself accountable with your goals and your habits and those kinds of things. Absolutely. Okay. Here, I want you to set up metrics to use to drive performance, and then be able to evaluate how well are we doing on these things, and then each month, right, you hit your target, keep adjusting the goal until we hit that magic sweet spot. And if you guys have questions, I'm going through this quick, but fourth, surround yourself with great people. I think, I love this quote. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best self. I find, and I bring this component up because a lot of coaches are sharing with me how isolated they feel in their current, they have people within their department to be talking to, but still there isn't anybody who is there to uplift, who's bringing different perspectives, right? Whose energy is contagious. And this is where I find, right? You've heard the saying, you become like the 5 people you hang around with the most, which makes me really nervous because I hang around with my dogs and my kids most of the day, right? In person. But we got to be mindful about who we're surrounding ourselves with and putting positive, inspiring, ambitious people around us. When you do that, you will become positive, inspired, and ambitious. You become who you surround yourself with. So my question to you, right, is on a scale of 1 to 10, do you have a great group of people that are surrounding you, or a coach that you might have? I know some of you work with us, right, with Dance Tutor. Hopefully you see us as somebody who's challenging you to raise your game to new levels, or just positive influence in your life. Or even it could be, if you don't have people there in person, which I don't here where I'm in the roles that I'm in, right, in person, books, podcasts, those kinds of things, or Zoom calls with different people, or coaching conventions, right? All the things, right? The groups. But on a scale 1 to 10, right? Do you have somebody, right, to raise your game to a new level? Where are you at with some of these things, So as I wrap this up, right, you are responsible for all of this stuff. My goal with this webinar was to get you thinking about, where am I currently at this year? Did I do the things I said I was going to do? And if not, what prevented me? What made this take too long? Why was this more stressful? This is where I want you to really see as a positive thing the things that cause the most friction and tension for you. That to me is the area. Let's tackle that, because there are things, right, that are holding us back from the next year, right? A lot of coaches, I ask them, did you plan out this year and execute it to perfection, or work on adjusting and course correcting as you went? Or was this another year of rushing through everything, being overwhelmed all the way through, right, the holiday season, and then we start off the next year with great intentions, but then things fall through again, right? I hope, again, 30, 40 almost minutes now. I want you to do things differently this year and take charge of where your career, your life, right, your team, your staff, all that stuff is going. Because, right, you are responsible for all of it. I know, again, you got athletic directors and all of the things kind of, but I found with showing up with a great operating system, it makes it easier for you to know what to say yes to, know what to say no to, but keep your discipline because you've got good habits and routines in place, right? When you have a staff firing on all cylinders, you know what to do, when to do it. They're a couple steps ahead of you. The communication is good, right? It's easier to keep good people, which means you're going to have to train new ones less, right? All the things. Setting accountability numbers, right? Instead of letting yourself off the hook and just, again, winging it every single week. Accountability numbers, setting targets, keep things objective. It helps you to have a better feel for the health that, are we doing the right things at the right time? And are we doing enough of the right things to hit our targets? But it's just easier. It's easier to hit your target because you know what you're after and you know the right steps to take, right? And then the last part is just being around great people who make the job fun and make the job, keep things positive, keep challenging you to be the best version of yourself, right? Those are things that, athletic director doesn't have a whole lot of influence on those things, right? Those are things you can take responsibility for. Now, I'm going to tell you this real quick, for those that are watching this. I am launching this next round of my high performance coach and recruiter, and with these components to it for the year. Keep an eye out in your inbox for those things. That's coming up soon. I actually got a really bad sinus infection, so I'm behind on releasing that for this year, but hopefully, just again, wanted to get the wheels spinning a little bit, get you thinking, self-evaluating, how am I doing in these areas and where could I add a little bit more of this or that or one of these components? Maybe it's all four for you to level up to next level, whatever that is for you for this next year. Again, my email, my cell phone number, text me, set up a call with me. Let's talk through how to make this work for you, right? But I'm trying to do more YouTube videos and Twitter, all the things, right? If you have questions, right, certainly put them in the chat and we can talk through them right now if you want to. I will send out this this webinar recording, but please reach out, let me know what you need and this is where my hope this year, I get to work with another few thousand coaches on getting yourself to this next level, whatever that is for you in your career. So hope I can help you somehow, some way in this next year, and have a great rest of the week. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to help. And yeah, we'll talk again soon.